Listen, you smell something?
Human emotions are materializing in the form of a viscous psychoreactive plasm with explosive supernormal potential.
What a discovery, a psychoreactive substance.
Do you know what this equipment is used for?
Boggle or Super Mario Brothers?
We'll have fun! Yeah!
They're still doing it. Really quite good work there.
My friend, don't be a jerk.
We've got no choice. Call the Ghostbusters.
Super Jackpot!
Welcome to Extraplasm Podcast. It's the only podcast on the internet that's considering doing a very special episode on donut preservation for collecting purposes for clear and obvious reasons. I'm your host, Jim Maritato, aka Vic Maniac on the internet, and I'm excited to be coming to you this week from the definitely rural and potentially haunted woods of New England for episode 99. This week I'm off visiting my family as I record the episode, so I might sound a little bit different than usual, but nevertheless, it's still an exciting episode, and it's the penultimate episode before we reach 100 episodes of the show and roll over the odometer to 3 digits, which is pretty damn cool. Joining me on the podcast this week are 3 members of the NYC Ghostbusters, including recurring guest Ryan Espin and newcomers Nick DeTibiiris and Topher Worley. I had a great chat with Ryan, Nick, and Topher about what they have on their schedule this month, including their forthcoming appearances at NYCC, their Ghostbusters location tours, some cool merch and raffles that they have in store to help out their community partners, and more. Plus, we dug into our thoughts about what we think is going to happen with the HasLab later on this month at New York Comic Con, as well as the annual representation of Ghostbusters that seems to happen at that convention in New York every year at this point. So it was really great to reconnect with Ryan and make some new NYC friends this week, and I'm eager to share that conversation with you in a few moments. Now, this is usually the part of the podcast where I would say, but before we can do that, we need to get into some Ghostbusters headlines. But there's one other matter I want to address at the top of the show first. As the podcast comes out this week, much of the southeast of the United States is bracing for a historic weather event as an incredibly rare and powerful hurricane is bearing down on Florida. And the track of this storm is projected to impact some high tourism areas, including Orlando. So this means that Disney World is closed, Universal Studios and Halloween Horror Nights are not happening. And it also means that while you've heard me talk about it over the last few weeks and even had Matt Sanders on talk about his autograph plans the Spooky Empire convention is now postponed and won't be happening this weekend. So this means that our friend Matt over at the containment unit will be working to keep his family safe rather than working to meet with Ernie Hudson, Kevin Mangold, Celeste O'Connor, or any of the other people that he was planning on seeing this weekend. So I want to say to our friends and listeners out there in the path of Hurricane Milton, stay fit, keep sharp, make good decisions, and we'll see you on the other side. And if you're someone out there who has a pre-order for autographs at Spooky Empire, sit tight while Matt and his buddy Eric, who set up those signings, find out more for you. It's likely going to take some time to make sure that everybody comes through the storm okay. And then it's going to take some time for people to figure out how they're going to reschedule and which guests are going to be able to come back, etc. So before you reach out to ask Matt about autographs, I'm going to ask a personal favor if you listen to the podcast. Wait, give it a week. Let them go through the storm and do what they've got to do and then reach out after everybody's all in the clear maybe, or just wait for Matt to give you an update because he's reliable and he definitely will. So to those of you out there who are disappointed by this, I completely understand it. But, obviously they're making the right decision. This is a very serious storm that can potentially cost a lot of damage and a lot of lives. So it makes the most sense for people to stay home and not come out to conventions because there'll always be opportunities for people to get autographs and things later, but you can't replace lives that are lost. So it's the right choice to make, and I'm glad it was made, but I hope that everybody who is involved stays safe. Okay, so having wished our Floridian friends well, let's now jump into some Ghostbusters headlines.
Still making headlines all across the country, the Ghostbusters are at it again.
Today, the entire eastern seaboard is alive with talk of incidents of paranormal activity.
On topic today, ghosts and ghost busting.
Extraplasm, read all about it. Ghostbusters headlines coming at you.
In official Ghostbusters media news, there's not too much to say this week because there's nothing that's out about new Ghostbusters media necessarily. But if you're in the new content about things you've already seen, then there's some news you can use. There's a special effects reel that was released on October 3rd. It came out as a result of Sony Pictures Imageworks presenting at this year's SIGGRAPH convention. SIGGRAPH is essentially a special interest group that is part of the Association for Computing Machinery that essentially is focused on looking at computer graphics. And this was an hour-long presentation that happened at a convention where they showed off different visual effects techniques they used in Frozen Empire with a lot of emphasis on how they composited the digital version of Slimer that they had, as well as the practical version of Slimer that Kevin Mangold played and that we've talked about and heard about in previous episodes. This also means that they look at things like the way that Melody's fiery body was designed. They look at things like proton streams. They look at the locations and how they had to deal with the fact that they were shooting, obviously, on a set this time and not actually in New York City for a lot of what they were doing, but then had to utilize footage from the NYC, etc. I don't want to tell you everything that happens in this because I can't. It's 53 minutes long and it's a lot of deep analysis of special effects stuff. So I want to encourage you to go over to the Sony ImageWorks VFX YouTube channel to look for this video. Or you can head over to Ghostbusters News and look for Jason's story from October 3rd. It's a really fascinating video that lets us know some of the ways that the really cool effects that exist in Frozen Empire came together. I know there's some folks out there who Frozen Empire was not their favorite Ghostbusters story, and I understand that. One thing I will say is that even if it's not your favorite Ghostbusters story, you can't deny that they did a great job with visual effects on this movie, and to see how they did it is fantastic. So go take a look at this. It's a great behind the scenes look at Ghostbusters Frozen Empire for sure. Outside of that particular behind the scenes reel, there's not a lot going on in terms of Ghostbusters media this week. Maybe we'll hear more about the cartoon in coming weeks. We'll see. But there is quite a bit to talk about in terms of merch for a few minutes. And perhaps the most confusing story of the week is that HasLab, of course, is going to be coming out with their next project. So Hasbro Pulse, of course, has their HasLab stuff where they put out their crowd-funded products. And we've, of course, backed the Proton Pack in the past and the 2 in the box that we're waiting on, which is the Ghost Trap and the PKE meter, which should be shipping relatively soon, although probably not before Halloween. For those of you who are interested in having those props for your costume, you're probably going to get them after that, which is what we expected always. So don't panic. But this weird thing did happen this week, which is that apparently there was a release on the Hasbro Pulse website for a HasLab product that then had 2 images of the old Proton Pack in it and showed that it was going to be a play set of some kind that was going to have 2 different tiers at which you could back it, one of which would have been more expensive than the other and was referred to as Deluxe. And the Deluxe version was slated to cost somewhere around $900. This, of course, sent lots of the fandom into a tizzy about what this all meant and what was coming. Since then, there's been a post to the Ghostbusters subreddit, which, while I don't consider a particularly deep place that people go to for Ghostbusters information, some people moderate it, I guess, who have relationships with Hasbro. And so they posted onto the subreddit for Ghostbusters on Reddit saying, HasLab development team here with a shiny new Reddit account in anticipation of our new Ghostbusters HasLab project, which is definitely not a play set and definitely not $900, but definitely is launching at New York Comic Con later this month. Our teams ran some website tests that accidentally went public. We are here to reassure you that they were using placeholder information for the test. We can't wait to see you for the product launch in just 13 days. We hope you'll love it as much as we do, and we are ready to come along, and you are ready to come along for the ride. They're obviously providing the ride. And hopefully the ride is an Ecto-1, based off of everything that they've showed us so far. They also went on to say, P.S., while we're dispelling rumors, everything's on track with the 2 in the box HasLab. You should still plan to have them by the end of the year. Okay, so this is essentially a post saying, hey, we accidentally posted some stuff to the internet that isn't the actual product. Don't panic. Understood. Copy that. But here's what's weird. I don't think we've ever had a HasLab before that had 2 different backable tiers, one of which was Deluxe and one was the other and one was not. And that would give you some rationale as to why all of a sudden they needed to run a website test to see how that was going to play out. So what does this mean? Does it mean that potentially we're going to see 2 different tiers at which you could back this next HasLab? Does it mean that we're going to see an Ecto-1 that you can back that'll just be Ecto-1, and maybe if you pay for the more expensive version, you'll get Ecto-1 with the parts to swap it out to other things? Does it mean that one of those Ectos is going to be solid gold and the other one is not? I have no idea. I don't even know if it's an Ecto-1. I just presume it is based off of all the marketing they've given us so far, where they showed us things like, a logo with a tire and a fin. And if it's not an Ecto-1 at this point, then what were you doing? So I presume at this point in my brain, this is an Ecto-1. We'll see if it is, and I've turned out to be right. But nevertheless, I'm also at this point wondering, what will this whole different deluxe versus non-deluxe tier thing mean, given that that wasn't something that was dispelled by this particular post to Reddit? We'll find out more at New York Comic Con in a couple of weeks. Until then, sit tight. But it is sort of interesting to see how this is going to play out, especially because I'm not sure that there's as many people who are going to want an Ecto-1 as they might have gotten to buy props. I say that not as a person who doesn't want an Ecto-1. You all know this. I want it more than anything else they could possibly sell me. But I am sort of wondering what it'll look like if they're offering two different tiers, and one of those tiers is going to be more expensive than the other. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Outside of that story about Ghostbusters HasLab stuff, the other big story of the week that if you've seen social media, you probably have already seen, is that I was wrong. The Krispy Kreme Donuts collection that I thought would not come to the US when I talked about it last week, because it hasn't in the past when they've done these internationally, it is here. It is now in the US, and it appears to be freaking everywhere, except where I am, because I'm in New England, and the people in New England seem to think that Duncan he's the only guy. Duncan's the only guy who makes a donut. So I can't get a Krispy Kreme donut anywhere where I am. So I hope if you have these, you're enjoying them, because I currently can't get one. And I hope they're still around when I get back to California next week. But if you are near Krispy Kreme, then you can go and grab yourself one of 4 different amazing donut options right now. There's a Ghostbusters cookies and cream donut that's made with Oreos. There's a Slimer donut that has an unglazed donut filled with lemon flavored green filling that's been dipped in purple and green icing and finished with a Slimer candy. There's an Ecto sprinkled donut that is an original glazed donut dipped in orange icing and topped with neon sprinkles. And of course, there's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man donut pull apart, which is like 5 munchkins all rammed together and then covered in powdered sugar. And then there's a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man head on it and a little sailor, bib. And it just looks like Stay Puft. And this is absolutely the one I would want if I was anywhere near a Krispy Kreme, but I'm not. Now, for those of you who are also not near a Krispy Kreme, it might be useful to know that there are some folks who have reported that they have found these at Walmart stores in the last 24 hours, because there are some Walmart stores that receive Krispy Kreme donuts to their grocery sections alongside Entenmann's and other pre-made baked goods. So you might want to check a Walmart near you if you don't have a Krispy Kreme nearby, but you know that your Walmart stocks Krispy Kreme within its grocery section. But what you won't find at the Walmart is the Slimer's Slimeade Chiller, which is the frozen drink that they've also put out over at Krispy Kreme for this, which is apparently a frozen lemonade flavored treat that's made with real fruit and sweetened cane sugar. Again, I'm stuck in Duncan Town right now. America apparently runs on Duncan and not Krispy Kreme in the Northeast. So I can't get a Krispy Kreme donut right now, but I'm hoping I'll be able to get one and tell you how these are later. For those of you who've gotten them, you seem to be very happy people. I have not seen a single complaint about a Krispy Kreme donut. And Ghostbusters fans, if you know them, they're real good at complaining at things, even when they love them. So I'm really glad to see that nobody's complaining about donuts. But I mean, come on, how could you? Krispy Kreme donuts are pretty great. So you get these before they're gone. They come in a great box that looks like a ghost trap. They're really cool. Don't try and collect the donuts and preserve them. That's not my real advice. I know I made a joke at the top of the podcast, but eat the donuts, enjoy them, consume them. Don't collect them. It's weird when people decide they're going to save donuts in a freezer for 5 years. Not everybody can be Matt from Dinosaur Dracula. Okay, so let's talk about a couple other merchandise items. Here's something that we can talk about for a minute that I probably am going to end up passing on, I'll be honest. Pre-orders have launched for Star Ace Toys 1/6 Ghostbusters action figures, which, despite the fact that they look pretty good, I have to say are yet 4 more of the OG Ghostbusters in a 1-foot tall platform or, scale. And I just don't know why I need it, especially at a price point of $285 per figure. This is pretty wild. They are great figures. They look really fantastic, but these Star Ace figures are essentially slated to be $285 a figure, and they're available through Big Bad Toy Store for sure. There's good sculpts to these. There's a lot you could say about how they're cool. They have great cloth uniforms, etc. But that's also true of several other products that are essentially selling the same thing. It was just last week that I was talking about how Blitzway is bringing back their 12-inch scale figures with updated head sculpts, with new features to them. And to be frank, those head sculpts look better than these. So if you're going to spend over $200 per figure on a Ghostbusters 12-inch action figure, I don't know. I really don't know why you need more than one. And it just kind of smacks me at this point that at a licensing level, it would be really great if there was more being offered to us in terms of diversity of product. It's kind of absurd at this point that I can count between Blitzway, Star Ace, PCS, at least 3 different vendors who are working on 1/6 scale figures that are action figures. And they're all of the same 4 guys in the same suits doing the same thing. And so to me, I would really like to see if they're going to continue to license out 1/6 scale figures, there's got to be a point where they start to move away from just doing the same 4 guys. I get it. It's a 40th anniversary year. And so there's an attention by different companies to want to capitalize on that. But the reality is that we don't all need 3 different sets of 4 guys that are a foot tall and cost $300 or $200 a pop. I mean, you've heard me complain about the fact that I don't even think you need 2 6-inch figures at $202. But are these cool looking figures? Yes. Are they something that I think I'm going to be able to get on board with given their price point and given the diversity of options, for buying these kinds of figures? Probably not. But if you want to check them out, you can go take a look at them over at Big Bad Toy Store for sure. And you can take a look at more detailed images over on Ghostbusters News, where Jason Fitzsimmons has provided some of those for you to take a look at. And speaking of Jason Fitzsimmons of Ghostbusters News, one other thing you can check out while you're over on his website is his latest review of the latest Garaka costume that he's received from HalloweenCostumes.com. This time around, he's got a version of the Garaka costume that essentially includes a latex mask, a one-piece robe, and stretch fiber-filled gloves. And he is, I believe, suggesting that this is perhaps the better version of the costume. The previous one that he had reviewed was made by Disguise, and he's kind of titled this video on YouTube, The Best Garaka Costume. So if you want to see a really detailed review where Jason breaks down the differences between the Garaka costumes that are on the market for Halloween, absolutely go check this video out. But you should also go over to his article on this, because he has a buy now link on the website that if you click through will save you 25% off on this costume for a limited time. It usually retails for about $100, but you can get it for $75 right now if you're using the link on his website. So head over to GhostbustersNews.com, check out Jason's review of the most recent Garaka costume. If you've seen his previous review of the Garaka costume that he did last, it's pretty funny. And this video is, by the same token, amusing, but also really informative on sort of illustrating the differences between the 2 different offerings that are out there right now for adults who would like to dress up and offer the death chill for Halloween. In Ghostbusters video game news, a real quick piece of information to provide to folks. They're apparently adding Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed to the PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium subscriptions this month, which means that for folks who are not currently owners of the game but may want to try it out via the library that's available with the subscription, they will have that option. This is pretty cool because it means that more people can come into the game, start to play it. And that's neat because hopefully it's going to mean the DLC is going to drop behind it. We know there's supposed to be another downloadable content coming this month that will presumably add the Scoleri brothers to the mix. We're hoping. We'll see. So we'll see how that plays out in the rest of the month to come. But starting October 15th, players who have either of the higher tier PlayStation Plus memberships will be able to access the game, play it, and get it with all of its downloadable content. So pretty cool stuff. You can go check it out if you're not already an owner of this game. You all know I've played way too much of this game, although I haven't seen it in over a week because I've been on the road. So I'm having withdrawals from this game. Be careful if you play too much of it. You might need to have your fix every day like me, or that might just be a problem with me and not necessarily Spirits Unleashed. I digress. Okay. And my last couple of pieces of news here this week are fan merch and media items. My fan media item I want you to know about is that our friend Bob After Dark from over there at the Windy City Ghostbusters is going to be running another version of his RPG live streamed on Twitch. Although this time it's an officially Sony sponsored fundraising event that's happening down at Sony Wonderverse on October 19th. So if you're in the Chicago area and you want to go be a live audience member to 6 different Ghostbusters franchises involved in a RPG campaign that's going to be fundraising for Extra Life and the Children's Miracle Network, you can totally do that. But if you can't go to Wonderverse, you can also just watch it online at twitch.tv/BobAfterDarkPlays. This is going to be happening October 19th at 7 p.m. Central. And again, this is 6 different teams that are coming together, flying out to Chicago to be at the Ghost Trap Bar at Wonderverse, for Bob leading them in an RPG campaign where people will be able to watch live on Twitch and provide donations and pledges in order to benefit Extra Life. This is a really cool thing. The last time they did this, they raised $1,200 in one night, which Bob messaged me and was surprised that he achieved because he was hoping to go into it and come out with about $500, and he came out with more than that. So this is a really cool opportunity. And this time around, like I said, this is a Sony sponsored event. So it's happening at Wonderverse. So it's really cool that Sony is getting on board with this and sort of finding ways to intersect with the fundraising that's being done in the community. So in terms of who's going to be representing here, there will be members of the Windy City Ghostbusters, Circle City Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters Virginia, South Carolina Ghostbusters, Louisiana Ghostbusters, and Sioux Empire Ghostbusters, all in attendance at Wonderverse Live with Bob. And this is a pretty cool thing, I got to admit. When Bob was on a few months ago talking about this, we got into chatting about all the potential that it could have after we got off air and different ways that he could sort of experiment with this. And I'm so thrilled to see that Sony is throwing some weight behind this and seeing the value in what he's doing with it, because it's pretty cool. So check this out, October 19th, 7 p.m., twitch.tv/BobAfterDarkPlays, all one word. And tune in to watch some of your friends from the fandom working and collaborating to solve some sort of bust that Bob's going to put them through as part of the RPG, and raising money for Children's Miracle Network all at the same time. And lastly, I want to remind you that if you haven't seen it already, our friends Tony Taylor and Brendan Pearce over at Phantasm Toys have a really cool figure out right now for pre-order that is going to be handmade and one-offs. So they're not being mass produced, but they're being individually made one at a time based off the number that are pre-ordered. This is a figure called Revenge of the Spooks and is the first in a line of these figures. It's 4 inches tall and has a sludge pack with blaster, glow-in-the-dark eyes, and articulated arms. It's so much fun. These are like the coolest looking figures. And if you don't know what these are, if you're fans of the Kenner Classics action figures, or rather the retro Kenner Ghostbusters figures, there was at one point a line that was a knockoff of them, a bootleg called Spook Chasers. Essentially, those Spook Chasers came with pack-in ghosts, just like the original Kenner figures did. And what Tony and Brendan have done is imagine what it would have been like if those pack-in ghosts got their hands on some sludge packs and went back after the paranormal investigators that tried to lock them up. So this is a really fun idea of, sort of ghosts that are going to do their own busting. If you're a fan of things like People Busters from the real Ghostbusters, it's kind of the same vein of character idea or concept, but certainly is not at all the People Busters whatsoever. So check this out. Go over to phantasmshop.com and take a look at this. The last opportunity to pre-order on these is October 18th. So you've got about less than 9 days to get this in if you would like to participate in getting one of the Revenge of the Spooks figures and starting a new line with Phantasm Shop. These are really great. I'm absolutely going to need to put them in my collection. Okay, so that about wraps up our headlines for this week. We're going to go now to my conversation with Ryan Espin, Nick DeTibiiris, and Topher Worley of the New York City Ghostbusters as we talk a bit about what they have going on in October and New York Comic Con coming up ahead. Joining me on Extraplasm Podcast, members of the NYC Ghostbusters, some of whom are returning to us and visiting us again, some of us who are brand new. Joining us and coming back is Ryan Espin, and for the first time coming on the podcast is Topher Worley and Nick DeTibiiris. Gentlemen, it's great to have you here. We'll kind of go one at a time so you don't have to all figure out who talks first. Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Chuck. Thank you so much for inviting me back.
If you keep calling me Chuck, I'm going to think you were referring to Chuck Scarborough of Channel 4 News from my childhood. It's going to be a very New York-centric podcast if we just start off making local, regional references, because I'm not going to lie, I'm excited to talk to like 3 people who are New Yorkers, and even if like you are New York adjacent because you travel over a bridge regularly, you still count because it's tri-state area people. But yeah, thank you very much for calling me Chuck. It's nice to have you back, Ryan. I think the last time I saw you was in New York City. So it's good you were representing well, and you're representing again well today. Topher, how are you doing?
Doing great. Excited to be here. I appreciate you having us on.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you on. And happy to get to know you and to meet some new faces from NYC. I think I've interacted with a couple of you, like maybe on the ground on Ghostbusters Day, but just in the sort of passing of surges of people who are walking by each other and handing each other patches and badges and things. So it's really awesome to sort of connect and start to chat a bit. And Nick, how are you doing?
Great. Just getting back from the Westchester County Fair. So I don't know if you know that reference at all. No, maybe not. Okay, that's fine. Just throwing out very regional, stupid things. But yes, all is well over here. Excited to be on the show today. And yeah, just excited to get into it.
if you start bringing up things like the Westchester County Fair, I'm going to be like, can we go out to Rye Playland and go see if we can find a Zoltar machine from Big? Because that'd be awesome.
No, man, we're going to Six Flags Great Adventure. That's got all the, it's got the Great American Scream Machine, and you know where the best rides are.
This is so messed up that you said this, because it's not on air from last week's podcast. But I talked about it with Nick from Ecto-1NJ and Matt from Experience Explorers. Like, they are both people who live in Jersey. And I said that the Jersey memory of my childhood that still sticks with me in my mid-40s, regardless of where I go, is the following. Thank you for riding the runaway train. As you enter the station, please push down and pull up on your lap bar and then exit to the left and enjoy the rest of your stay at Six Flags Great Adventure. Like, I don't know why
roller
this
coaster.
There we go.
Yes, it's like one of my first roller coaster experiences. And so anytime anybody says Six Flags Great Adventure, it's like the first thing that pops in my brain. And you went with Great American Scream Machine. I would have went with Rolling Thunder, personally. That's like my jam. I miss that thing. But yeah, we could spend way too much time talking about Great Adventure, create a complete spin-off podcast that was just about it.
Oh, don't get me started. I'm ready. I'm biting my tongue.
The Jackson Files, all stories of Jackson, New Jersey. Now I'm going to challenge somebody to do that. There's got to be like some sort of paranormal spin-off story that's just, it's about ghosts from the Pine Barrens who come out into that swamp that surrounds Six Flags Great Adventure and they possess the park at night.
If that was the case, we'd probably go to Action Park to get even more supernatural for sure. For
a lot more death, definitely.
A lot more death.
This is starting to sound like an episode of Scooby-Doo. I'm just saying.
I mean,
look, some episodes of Extraplasm are not dissimilar from episodes of Scooby-Doo. I mean, there's not necessarily a van involved, but there's spooky things. There's currently 4 of us. That means if we just go get a dog, we're like pretty much close to there. Like we can gender flip whichever parts we need to make this work. It's all good. Like,
yeah, where's Shaggy when you need him?
I mean, yeah, it's true. We actually have a member in our group that goes by Shaggy. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk with all of you. And as much as I'm sort of joking about New Jersey things, I'm stoked to be talking with you about NYC things, because you are the NYC Ghostbusters. And there's a lot that's happening in New York City over the next few weeks with relationship to the things you're doing, some things that are happening out at Comic-Con where I think you're going to be appearing and stuff. And so I'm really happy to be connecting with you and to sort of find out what's happening around the New York area. Although I'm not going to be there, I will be there in spirit, I promise. And I'm always there in spirit whenever I eat pizza. So if I'm eating pizza that's not good enough, I remind everyone I'm from New York and judge it very harshly. And that's part of being in spirit there, so.
You say this, but the last couple times you've been to New York, you have spent 0 time of the time you told me you would spend with me. So
shots fired.
Okay. Shots fired
let's
immediately.
Cover this. Shots fired. This is fair. I knew I'd be held accountable for this at some point. So during the premiere, I said I would go on your ghost tour, and I genuinely intended to go on your ghost tour. And then it turned out that I was going to have to be at the premiere early to do like media pickup stuff. And so I wasn't going to be able to do your ghost tour. And then I felt bad because I had to split early to go do that with Jason Fitzsimmons. And then we got there and we stood around for a really long time doing absolutely nothing, like just standing there. So we probably could have been on the ghost tour. It would have been fine. But like, it was why it didn't happen. Admittedly, the second time was Ghostbusters Day, and it was hot.
It was hot. It was hot. And let me tell you, so that day, right, I didn't realize it until literally the end of the day, but I felt really off all day. And I didn't have COVID. I did not have COVID. I had like a really bad flu. And by the end of the tour, I had 103-degree fever. It was just like wild.
That's crazy.
Like, I'm not feeling good. I just got to go
that's
home.
Like borderline. You are heat stroke conditions, no good, right? Like, and to be real, like part of what happened with the ghost tour with the second time around was, I realized by the end of the day, for real, that I had not had any liquid put into me between like 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. Like at some point you disappeared. Like I was standing there on the side of the road and I was talking to somebody and I was like, where's the ghost tour? And they're like, they're gone. I was like, oh shit, I was supposed to go with them. I was like, and then I was standing there afterwards and I was like, I don't feel good either. And that's when I realized I was like, I literally haven't had anything to eat or drink because I've done nothing but walk around and talk to people and take photos and interview people and do all this stuff. And so from the moment I arrived at the firehouse, I just never stopped to go. It was like being a fan fest again. There was no water. There was water. It was available. I just had to go get it. But I didn't stop to take care of myself either. And so if I had gone on the tour with you, I think that would have been bad. I think that probably would have ended very badly. Water.
Or
Now you would have wanted me to have the Ghostbusters Fan Fest simulator fully in effect. You just withhold all the water and don't give it to anybody.
That's I'm glad I avoided Fan Fest for what I've heard. I mean, I hear so many great things, but at the same time, like, oh man, I'm glad I wasn't there at the moment, you know?
Well, look, I say this about Fan Fest at this point, like that my feeling on it is it's a great day. Like it was a great day that I'll never give up. And I'm so happy. It's like one of the best days of my life and I'm super happy about it. And I had a great time. But it's also like almost the perfect Ghostbusters event in a weird screwed up way, because like Ghostbusters love to be underdogs. So like we love to be like the persona and character of people who are like up against the man and up against some sort of challenge. And Ghostbusters love war stories. So like that is one of those situations where you can go, I got to meet Dan Aykroyd and I got to do this and I got to do that. But oh my God, the challenge to get there. And there was no water. And you can totally just adopt the persona of the underdog who had to be against the man who wouldn't provide any water. And that's what makes FanFest wonderful. If you're listening out there and this is insulting to you, I'm sorry. Like it's also not something I'm going to take back too much because it's kind of true. Like many of us who were at FanFest talk about it as if it was some like slog, and we also would never have not done it. Like we were all thrilled to have been there. So I'm sure your ghost tour was just as thrilling.
By the way, it's a Ghostbusters film location tour, not to be confused with a New York ghost tour.
That's fair. That's fair.
So we did one on the premiere day, and that was also Pie Day. So we made sure to make it a pizza oriented tour as well too. So we stopped by. We actually had the Ecto pick up pizzas from John's Pizzeria over on Bleecker, and I remember bringing up a slice to you on that day, which you're welcome.
Yes. As much as I did not go on your tour because I'm an enormous piece of shit.
No. But then we also
did receive pizza from you.
Yeah. But then my favorite part, too, is that after we did that pizzeria. And then when we went to go see the movie, Trevor was wearing that T-shirt from John's Pizzeria. And I'm like, oh, this pizza was canon.
Yeah, so you did bring Cannon Pizza to the top of a bus that had Slimer on the side of it. It was like a double-decker tourist bus that Jason Fitzsimmons and I had climbed up on top of to take photos, and you suddenly emerged with pizza. And I was like, that's amazing. And then I didn't go on your ghost tour because I'm an enormous piece of shit.
No, it's okay.
So we've now documented this fully. I hereby offer my acts of contrition, which are 1, welcome to the podcast. Please feel free to say whatever you'd like to anybody. 2, I owe you pizza at a future date. And 3, we need to hang out like next time I'm in New York, as opposed to me being like, let's hang out and then finding a way to get busy, because that's definitely been my fault. I admit it. So
no worries.
Anyway, now that we've spent like 11 minutes of podcasts making sure that everybody knows we're all from New York and that I'm a bad person, should we talk about what's been going on there in New York City and what you've got cooking?
One of you take it away.
Sure. Yeah. So we got Comic-Con coming up pretty soon, actually. The dates are the 17th to the 20th?
Yeah.
That sounds about right. October 17th to 20th, 2024. So we are getting ready. We have a booth up in the River Pavilion, also known as Cosplay Central, all the way upstairs in the main atrium area. And we got some exciting stuff that we're going to have this year. We have some return items that we're going to be offering and return activities. We also have some new stuff that we're going to be doing, which is awesome. We have our slime lab, which is always a fun time for the kids. And for those that are kids at heart, I'd like to say, because we do get a number of adults that like to get their hands all goopy and make some slime. And then we also have some merch for sale. We have some T-shirts with our logo on it. We have actually brand new youth shirts with a mini puff version of our logo on them. That's going to be brand new for this year. We also have some pins, various pins with our logo. We also have some pride pins. We have challenge coins, patches, all sorts of stuff. We have stickers, keychains, and all this stuff. Everything that we take in, everything that we take in from all the slime making and all the merch goes directly to charity. We work with the Trinity Place Shelter, which is a homeless shelter in the New York City area that caters to the LGBTQ community. We've been working with them for a number of years now, and they are fantastic. It's a smaller charity. How many?
8 years.
8 years. Yeah. Wow. We've been working with them for 8 years. So, they've been absolutely fantastic. The way we look at it is like, we're not, a huge charity group. We're not making, tens of thousands of dollars by any means. So, we wanted to get a smaller charity that we could work with since we're a smaller group. And, we, who was it? Was it Josh that found?
Yeah. Josh Yoder.
That looked into them, looked into, a charity that we could work with. Josh Yoder found these guys, and they've been absolutely fantastic to work with. We do a yearly drop off of food and money to them, where we actually make food and eat with them, hang out for a while. It's always a great time, and they're very appreciative. It's like I said, it's a small charity, so any dollar that they take in, you could really see a difference. So it's fantastic.
Is that also who you have worked with in the past when you do the toy drive effort? The same group?
No. So the toy drive, we actually, another one of our members works for the New York City Department of Education. And he reached, actually when he was like pretty new to the group, he immediately took the reins. It was like, hey, my school district has a toy drive. If there's anything that we could do to be a part of that event services kids in the Bronx area that are in temporary housing. Gotcha. And so the toy drive that we do, basically we have our toy drive telethon. Ryan has hosted it, Topher's hosted it. We have a rotating list of hosts that go out there and take donations for. We have some gifts that we send out for certain donations, and all the money that we take in for that, we just basically go to a Target and clear out the shelves of whatever we can and bring it over to the Board of Ed.
That's awesome, because I didn't know that you had multiple community partners that you were working with. That's why I kind of asked the question, because I knew in the past that that's sort of what you had done with the toy drive, but I didn't know that you were also working with Trinity Place as a separate organization. So that's really cool.
And if I can interject as well, we just hit our 1 year anniversary for our 501c3 status as a nonprofit. Nice. While we have those primary charities, we're always doing different stuff. Like even this weekend, we have a Yonkers Comic-Con coming up. And so we're donating our time to the Yonkers Library and getting out there to help promote their second annual Comic-Con. So we are been working with a lot more organizations recently, but we always have the big focus.
Yeah, the Hoboken homeless shelter too. We'll be going to their 5K.
That's awesome. And Ryan, I said this when you and I talked about this a while back, that your 501c3 status was probably going to be a thing that helped to open doors in terms of creating connections, because it gives a sense of legitimacy, right? And it's like, well, here you go. I mean,
when you asked for everyone's email address, I was like, well, it's just, it was just everyone's at NYCGhostbusters.com. I was like, yeah, we're official, man.
So, Nick, to sort of jump back, because I didn't mean to sort of deviate you out of NYCC, but you were talking about the merchandise and stuff and how it supports Trinity Place and what else was going to be going on there.
Sure. Yeah, we actually have a couple exclusives also that I want to touch on that has been, teased at online. For those of you out there who've heard of Real Ghostbusters, Pizza Plasm, he's actually one of us. And he'll be doing a print for us. I know he's been putting out little sneak peeks of the. It sort of looks like that dinner tray, right?
Yeah, like the dinner tray, the promo image for Real Ghostbusters where they're chasing Slimer.
Yeah, so he's doing a version of that for us. That's going to be an exclusive that we have at New York Comic-Con. We also are going to have what is it? Oh, that's right. So Comic-Con itself, the entire event usually has some sort of theme to it. And the theme to all of Comic-Con this year is bodega, because what's more New York than a bodega and the cats that live there. Mm-hmm. So to go along with the bodega theme, we're actually going to have a mini puff bodega pin that we're offering exclusively at Comic-Con. Awesome. So if you're there, make sure to check us out. Like I said, Cosplay Central up in the River Pavilion. We'll be there making slime, yelling around, making fun of the Star Wars guys because they're a bunch of nerds and we're cool.
Yeah, forget those guys. but that mini puff bodega pin too. It was it was drawn by my brother-in-law Zach Andrade, And it's basically the marshmallow mini puffed coming out of a cup of coffee, and the coffee is like in the Greek,
like the New York cup of coffee, the blue cup?
the New York Greek cup.
My God, I need this.
Yeah. So with that pin, so we actually had that. He actually made a design for us in 2021 for the Afterlife premiere. And then also a member of our group, Chris Beaumont, who designed the New York City Ghostbuster logo, made like a realistic version of it as a postcard that we handed out to people on the day of the Afterlife premiere.
Nice.
So we're using that same design and just tying it into this bodega theme. And Topher is going to be picking up the pins. You haven't gotten them yet, right?
No, they were waiting for some of our other stuff to come in, so I only had to make one trip.
I really want to see this pin. Yeah. Topher likes surprises. I hate surprises. I want to see a picture of what this pin looks like immediately. So
I really want this. This is something that's amazing. And now I'm like, how can I get one? How can I get one? I'm not coming to New York Comic Con. How can I get one?
We'll get you one, Jim. Don't worry.
I don't know. They're going to be really hard to come by. I don't know.
I don't know if you intend to sell any of the stuff online as well, but I'm sure that folks in the Ghostbusters patch and pin group would be jazzed to find out if there's ways to get it, that stuff, you know.
Well, we're doing a lot of things internally. One of the things that we are doing is we're actually making our web presence a bit stronger. So we're working on a new website. There's a potential that a shop could come about, but you know, that's down the line.
Down the road. Yeah, that's fair.
Down the road. We have a lot of things to do.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you have a lot to get done, and you've gotten a lot done. Like the Who You're Going to Call database is one of those things that you've been doing on bigger than just the NYC group. You know, you're contributing a lot out there, so I don't blame you for not having it done. That's it. You're in trouble. That's it. No, I'm kidding. But I also am now very concerned. I'm going to just tell you, you spoke his name. And if you speak his name on the podcast, you curse me every time it happens. We didn't say the name.
We didn't say the full name.
Oh, is that how this works? If we refer to him by his other names, if we just call him Pizza Plasm or Real Ghostbusters, and we didn't
use the given name, but go on, talk about your curse.
I think you know the curse, which is that anytime someone
any mention of it will bring his critter friends to your house and likely destroy
every single time someone says his name, and they are on the podcast within 1 week. Somehow I end up with raccoons on my roof or trying to break into my attic. And I'm not kidding you. Last week, somebody used his name in reference to me about something. And that night, my partner was yelling in the kitchen. And she was just going, go away, go away, go away. And I was like, what is going on? And I came out in the kitchen. She was baking cookies and she had the screen door open. And there was a family of raccoons that were like, we can just have cookies, right? We'll just come in the back door. So at the risk of having done this, shout out to Chris Sorrentino. I recognize
tier raccoon content. Top tier raccoon content.
If you don't follow Pizza Plasm on Instagram and see the top tier raccoon content that's coming from Staten Island, like you're doing something like wrong with your life.
So good.
You don't have to be a Ghostbusters fan. You just got to be a fan of people who feed like marshmallows and pepperoni to raccoons and sing about it. Like that's
the pepperoni song was so good.
Will Chris be out at NYC at NYCC? Do you think?
Usually makes an appearance.
Yeah.
He was there last year a little bit. He does his Jake Blues, comes down, hangs out a little bit.
Mr. Baby Badoochi.
Baby
Badoochi,
makes some really inappropriate comments, and we all laugh. We all burp. We all do some inappropriate things, and then he just fades away into the mist.
He's really mythical for sure. But there's a good chance it'll be probably Saturday, much like last year. He also came by around that time too. And what was really cool is last year's print, we turned into a giant like wall banner for our booth. So we got to go and sign it, which is pretty cool. And there's an April O'Neil cosplayer there, and there's a little April O'Neil like reference in that drawing. So she like stood in front of it, and that was fantastic.
That's awesome.
It's just so cool what people see with that.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could be at NYCC this year to hang out with you all for sure. And sort of knowing that you've had the sort of continued relationship with him as he's made these different art pieces that benefit the charities you work with is really cool. I love his stuff. I think he just does such a great job of sort of taking the aesthetic of real Ghostbusters and mashing it up with the cinematic universe. And when he put out that recent teaser, he put out the artwork and he said, now it's ready for a painting behind it, or like a background. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh man, I want this. I want to know what you're going to put it in front of. So, but then it made me think of all these weird and funny things you can put in front of.
The man, though, is so much better than the work. Let me tell you, he's a great guy. He's a great friend.
Yeah. No, he's been on the podcast before and he's a great person. He's really fun. In addition to all the things that people should come out and find that you've got at NYCC if they're coming out to the con, I believe that you also may be doing some fun giveaways and things. Topher, did you want to talk a bit about that?
Absolutely. So a big one this year, we have a new Plinko board that we were inspired by the Circle City Ghostbusters. Brian, you should drop some names for us.
Jacob Bartlett shared a picture with me.
Yeah, and then we asked him immediately if we could steal that idea. And then one of our team members, Joe Vaccaro, actually just went and made one out of wood. It was incredibly fast turnaround, and it looks really awesome.
I think he did it in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He immediately gave us like a blueprint. He's like, this is what I'm going to do. And it looks like a big ghost trap kind of, and it has the hazard stripes on it. It's really cool. So,
the blueprint, I think Ray drew it.
Oh, did Ray draw the blueprint? But Ray designed it and Joe put it together. It's awesome. For those of you who don't know who Plinko is, you can watch Price is Right at least once.
That's funny. I've actually seen the real live Plinko because I went to go see a taping of Bill Maher once. And it's the same studio they use. They just move all the stuff around. And so I had to come in the back of it. And like Plinko was there, but it was like wrapped up in plastic with big straps over it so nobody could mess with it. And I was like, that's weird. And now I'm wondering, like, are you going to get a celebrity who makes a video that like shows how to win at this Plinko game? Like, have you seen the Snoop Dogg video about this?
Oh, yes. Yeah, Snoop Dogg just showed everyone how to win at all of the. He just hung out with the contestants through like a whole episode and like showed them how to win every game. Like, how much Price is Right do you watch, Snoop Dogg? Aren't you busy? He seems busy.
To be fair, Drew Carey did go on a podcast years ago. Like, and he just basically on one podcast episode was like, here's how you win the games. And like essentially just told the podcast audience like how to win it. So for all I know, Snoop is a fan of that podcast. But when they had him on as a celebrity guest, he was like, no, don't put the ball there for Plinko. Put it over here. And the ball like goes straight down and gets the jackpot. Like somebody told him exactly where it should go beforehand. And then he was like, I'm going to make winners today. That's what my job is. I'm Snoop. So now that's my question. Who are you going to get to be your Snoop for your Plinko?
We got Snoop.
We got a Snoop. No,
maybe Snap.
Yeah.
From Crackle and Pop.
We don't got Snoop. We got Snap.
I want that now. Let me have that like collaboration. Snoop and Snap cereal wraps. Like that's.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be great.
Itself.
All right. In addition to the new Plinko board this year, we're also doing some big raffle stuff. We got a lot of donations this year for some big vendors. Regal gave us a lot of really cool Ghostbusters swag. Shake Shack gave us some donations. Midtown Comics, Wawa. Turns out if you ask for stuff, they give it to you. So we're going to be able to pass that on.
Can I like comment on this for a second about your Regal swag?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, do it.
Ryan sent me a photo of a pile of your Regal swag. And there's all sorts of stuff in it, but my eyes immediately were drawn to the kanji characters on a box. And I went, are those Japanese exclusive ceramic mugs?
Everything they gave us was from Japan. I don't know where they got it. Because when we first called them, they're like, we'll give you some Regal stuff like candy and like maybe a gift card. And then we showed up and they gave us like a skateboard deck and like it was all Ghostbusters stuff. And all of it came from Japan. It was crazy.
That skate deck, I think, was otherwise only available as part of like the Walmart bundle, right? It was like a thing where it was like if you if you're one of the first, I don't know, 500 people who purchased some, was it a bundle,
the
box or something?
The Steelbook, right?
Steelbook? Okay, yeah. So I don't know how they ended up with one, but like it's kind of funny because when you said that to me, though, I admit like everything else in the image dropped away and all I saw was ceramic Japanese mug. And as a person who's collected like all of the Coca-Cola Japanese Ghostbusters 2 glasses and things, I was like, oh, I need those.
But you know what, though? I was a little, they're cool, but the mugs inside, no kanji whatsoever.
Oh, well, that's a bummer.
It's just, and because it's a Japanese mug, it is not an American cup of coffee. Like that is a tiny, like you have the small setting on the Keurig that nobody uses. That's the cup it's for.
It's the espresso shot.
It's very
it's
tiny.
for tea. It's for tiny tea shots. That's what it's for. You got to have a Ghostbusters themed paranormal tea ceremony. You got to like get one of those little bells to ring and stuff, but then you also got to get slime involved. Like this is something somebody should do for real. Some nerdy tea shop.
I'm working on it
do
now.
this.
Right. And one more big raffle news thing. So this year, normally we do raffles every day for these items. And this year we're going to have gift baskets, which are going to be like, get to take home a lot of stuff for just like a very small amount, potentially if you win the raffle. And then this year we're actually going to raffle off our Ghostbuster Ecto NYC film tour. So that's a big deal. Like it's our regular film tour that we offer. I'm gonna let Ryan actually talk a little bit more about
our regular. How dare you?
How dare you? Our premium,
how dare you?
Exclusive tour.
Okay. Let me tell you something about our tours. We've been doing our tours since 2014. These Ghostbuster tours with the car. We've been doing them since 2017, and this Ghostbusters tour is a private 4-person tour that you're going to be driven in our Ecto all through different filming locations. We start at the library. We're going to go and we park the car. We get out and go into these places and like go check out the Rose Reading Room. We go check out the Museum of the American Indian where we see like the slime stains from Ghostbusters 2 filming, like we'll check out all these different spots. But
that's an important distinction I'm going to add in there because like the ghost tour that you could get with Ecto 1 and J is great and is a great experience.
Oh, it is.
That is very much like a drive up, see it, take some photos and on to the next location versus let's go inside and let's go be really, really intensely nerdy about the Rose Room.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, first of all, not knocking Ecto 1 and J. Nick is a great guy. But I love doing our tours, and I will continue doing our tours until, I don't know, I guess I
revoke your tour guide license.
Until I get my tour guide license revoked, which I have to renew every 2 years. Yes.
Well, that's even if they did, I'm sure you would still do tours and you just declare it your golden years. And like people would come up to you and be like, look at this. You're dragging around random people off the streets. You don't even have a license. You're going to get yourself killed. You got to find a better way to do the things you love, Ryan.
The tours, by the way, too, in 2017, too, we were doing tours that so Sony was actually Sony International reached out to us because they had all these contest winners from across the whole globe. They would win a trip to New York and have a tour with the Ghostbusters. So we'd have all these different people that loved coming to New York, and most of them knew nothing about Ghostbusters. So I was doing this whole Ghostbusters tour with them. But the thing with tours is you always have to like adapt to what people want. So, like some tours, there was one tour where the family only spoke Russian and they were kind of going along with it, but really didn't care about like seeing 55 Central Park West. Cause okay, you're showing me a 19-story Art Deco building or whatever. Right. But they're like, well, we want to see the Home Alone hotel. So we took them to the Plaza Hotel. Like, oh, we want to buy an iPhone. So we took them to the Apple store, like, we were basically just like chaperoning people for 4 hours, which is great. I had a great time. You meet some really interesting people. And what's cool about the tours, too, is it shows a lot of different sides of New York. A lot of tourists assume New York is very much like, well, they go to Times Square and they say like, okay, that's New York, right? But the film location tour goes, Central Park West is super quiet, So you get to see this experience in Central Park West where it's not touristy at all. It's just regular people, here's a small hole in the wall coffee shop, And
then there's no Carlo's Bake Shop cake machine. That doesn't exist.
No Carlo's Bake Shop cake machine. No Bubba Gum Shrimp Factory, whatever, I try to take people to, things that they would like in New York City as well, too.
But you should also still take them by Junior's for cheesecake, because even though there is a location in Times Square, That is decidedly New York.
I did go there. Was it like 4 weeks ago? Yeah.
Nice. Now I'm very jealous of you. I'm very insanely jealous of you.
I had the carrot cheesecake that time. It's a good cheesecake. It's pretty good. Yeah.
You're gonna wreck me right now.
Sorry. But yeah, so if you win, and we will arrange a time. We won't fly you into New York. You're on your own to get into New York, but we will happily drive you through New York when you do get there.
And that while we're doing that during all 4 days of Comic-Con, it's not exclusive to congoers. So look out for our social media about how to enter for that. And we'll see you in New York, hopefully.
Oh, and then there's one more thing about that, too. When you do, if you don't win, because there's going to be a lot of people entering, right? If you don't win, don't worry. You could always schedule a tour with us. We have currently 4 tour guides on staff that are more than happy to schedule a tour. We can figure out if we're going to do a walking tour or an ecto tour, depending on your party size and your budget. And because we're a 501c3, is a tax deductible tour as well, too. Potentially tax deductible tour.
You got to go talk to your accountant about that one. You need to check in. Don't ask your accountant to be your defense attorney, though. Just have him be your accountant. If you ask him to be more than that,
it's a night school, you know.
Yeah, he may not know what to do with that judicial restrainement order he got from her. So I regret that I haven't done that tour with you, and I admit that. Like, that is a thing that I didn't get to do it the last couple times that I was in New York, and part of the rationale, of course, was like, okay, can't make this work because of scheduling. And then in one case, like, feel like crap and then you were gone. But I think that's so cool that you take the time to go out and do this as like an actual like instructional tour, like in a way that like has some value to it and teaches history and tells people about the place rather than just being photo op. And that's not a judgment on like tours that are photo op oriented as much as that I think it's just a different kind of thing, right? To go with somebody who's like a docent in a way and have them be able to talk to you about these kinds of things. And it's like, I wish that I had like a private docent when I was going around at like the premiere. And part of me is like, maybe the way I should be doing this is I should just fly in and just give you a donation to take me on a tour, as opposed to being like, make it work when I am, you know, trying to come in and cover other stuff, because I'm also incredibly insanely like just would want to monopolize your time as a tour guide. I'm like, tell me more.
And that's the fun thing too. Like, I mean, I do these tours, you know, all the time. I'm still finding things I just, that's something brand new for me. Like watching it, going through with everyone that it's like, it's the first time for them, or they've been there many times, but they don't think about some of the like the history behind some of these specific buildings, you know? Like I like that experience. I like sharing that experience with the people that are taking the tour. And also, I do try to learn the history as much as I can, but I'll tell you this. I flub pretty much every single tour with like a question I can't answer, with something getting a date wrong. And I'm, you know, but if I let people know right away, like that's like, listen, I got a tour guide license for New York City, but I am not a New York City expert, you know? I will tell you things that I know, which is Ghostbusters.
But I'm for that.
There's a lot of really interesting stories, too, that I learned during the tour, because doing a New York City Ghostbuster film location tour, New York loves Ghostbusters. Like, This is not a brag or anything. You go into New York, dress up like a Ghostbuster, you will get stopped. You will get people taking pictures. You'll get people cheering you on. Mm-hmm. You'll get cops that will want to like let you ride the subway for free. I've
joked about this. I literally watched these things happen inside Ecto 1NJ, where I watched a police officer stop writing traffic tickets in the middle of writing traffic tickets and give us a peace sign. And I was like, we're like literally just driving around defusing conflict in the city. This is bizarre. Like
there's a lot of really like, and not only that, but people will tell you personal stories. I've had people tell me personal stories about their run-ins on the set in '83 with Dan Aykroyd. I had a cab driver tell me he had the worst first day of his job because it was in October of 1983, and for that reason, he's never ever seen Ghostbusters because of that awful gridlock traffic that just haunts his nightmares every single night. So, and then I love doing these tours because I get those stories and I share those stories with people on the tour. And I'm looking forward to the next story I hear. The most recent story was confirmation about the slime staining incident at the Museum of the American Indian from one of the associates there. His name is Bob, and he'll tell you the whole story about how that actually happened. It's great.
That's funny. I was just talking about that like last week with somebody. I can't remember why, but I was just literally talking about that very staining incident and whether or not it was real. So, like, yes,
it was real.
Bob says so.
Bob says so, and there's a full story behind it that I will save for the tour.
Yeah, if you want to know, you have to go actually take the tour. Otherwise, you don't get to find out these mysteries.
Or you can just message me. I'll tell you.
We're going to put out a secret episode of the podcast that's just called like Ryan Espin's Secrets of Ghostbusters. And it's all just you spilling
Confessions
Ghostbusters
of a
tea.
Ghostbusters tour guide. That's what it is.
Yes. Although I don't know what that's like. You're like, these are things that have happened that Ghostbusters did on my tour.
I have stories like that too. Yes.
Somebody tried to actually step on the church. They didn't understand how the dimensions and physics work, but they tried really hard. No, obviously that's probably not it. Well, there's a lot for folks to see at NYCC in terms of your booth. There's a lot for folks to do during that weekend if they want to come out and engage you. And obviously, people should be keeping their eyes on social media to figure out how they might be able to win that tour experience. So for sure, go check out NYC Ghostbusters on all social media platforms because you're out on Instagram and Facebook and all those places, right? But I think we're all very excited about NYCC beyond your appearance there because there's some things happening at NYCC that are Ghostbusters oriented. And to me, I don't know. I don't know how you all feel about this, but I feel like in some way, like you just talked about the idea that, New York loves Ghostbusters, right? And in some way, I feel like Sony has almost chosen New York Comic-Con to be like the new home of Ghostbusters announcements, almost apropos, because like New York loves Ghostbusters and the Ghostbusters represent New York in some way, because we certainly got like the Afterlife reveal, right? That was sort of the thing that happened. And like that movie was essentially shown to an entire audience there with a big hush, hush, please don't tell anybody about the end, which seemed to go well, bizarrely enough. Like people went, okay, cool, we won't. But then you come out like to having the tease of the Two in the Box happened at New York Comic-Con, and Sony at the same time, like they don't really go to SDCC. And if they do, they're not going to San Diego Comic-Con with Ghostbusters deeply. Like they don't bring Ghostbusters out to that. They've typically done something in June for the anniversary. This year it was the 40th. Right. And now it seems like NYCC is the place where some of this stuff goes on. Like, do you get the sense of that like they've kind of selected NYCC at this point as almost like the home of Ghostbusters information and marketing in a sense?
I mean, to be honest, no.
That's okay. You can say no.
I feel like there are announcements for sure. Maybe, but
Spirits Unleashed, man.
Oh yeah, duh. Okay, never mind. I take this back. Yes, I think it does correlate. Right, because that was what, 2022?
Yeah.
Right, 2022. That's when Spirits Unleashed was coming out, and that same weekend was New York Comic-Con. Was the same weekend as the launch party for Spirit Unleashed. That was when I got to drive Logan Kim and McKenna Grace in the Ecto. That was a blast.
Ooh, great party too.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Oh my gosh!
I've heard good things about that party. I've heard good things about that. That was not there, but
yeah. I mean, actually, no. I think you are right, because now I'm thinking about it. Right, we got the Mondo records, right? The Mondo records were New York Comic-Con exclusives, right? That they released later,
right?
I think wasn't there an Egon Afterlife Funko Pop that was exclusive that was released later?
It might have been revealed there. Like you could get it online, but it might have been revealed at Comic-Con. Maybe I'm not sure, but
I don't know. Oh man, but don't get me started on the Funkos.
And then Adam Savage was also there.
Adam Savage was there. Oh, that was a wild time too.
That was a fun time. Adam Savage was doing his when Afterlife came out, and he did the whole 1 day build of his proton pack, and we ran into him with a big old group of Ghostbusters, and he was so cool. That was really awesome. That was that was the same weekend that they premiered the movie. So back in 21, that was a great time. So maybe Sony loves New York for Ghostbusters.
That's kind of the impression I'm starting to get. And it's like, it's weird to think about it, but like the NYCC profile seems to be increasing in terms of like its importance in the con schedule. It's a con that's existed for a really long time, but it's also like the kind of con that you could get a badge the weekend of for like a long time.
Anymore.
Not
anymore.
Right?
It used to be like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And as like the relationship between film studios and whatnot are in sort of increasing and marketing are increasing with NYCC, I feel like that's shifted. But I really feel like in a strange way, like Ghostbusters has been at a core of that. Like I've talked to people several times who are like, Elizabeth Olsen's going. Right. And that's like the key indicator that this means that NYCC is like a big level con at this point. And I'm like, yeah, but like the thing that has kind of led there that's had like a consistent representation that it's like they've chosen to be there versus SDCC is Ghostbusters, you know? And so I'm kind of excited, I think as much as you are, that there's a lot of announcements that are going to be coming out and kind of reveals that are potentially going to be coming out over the next couple of weeks that are really centered around NYCC at this point. And it's almost like this has become like a stable point on the calendar to expect Ghostbusters announcements. You know, we look for them in June, often going like, that's the anniversary, tell us something. But it seems like more often we're getting stuff in October at this point.
Yeah. And it just makes sense too. I mean, October is, obviously I'm sure other franchise members that are listening to this always kind of dread October because that's their, oh my gosh, there's Ghostbuster events happening all this month that we are in charge of. So it does make sense that, calendar wise to announce things in October for Ghostbusters, just because, Halloween and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I never thought about it that way. I mean, I've been doing New York Comic Con Ghostbusters cosplay there. The first time I did it was 2011. And I just been, that was part of Minions of Gozer that time.
Right.
And then there's always been a large Ghostbuster cosplay, presence at New York Comic Con. Now that I think about it. So not knocking, by the way, any other cons that have Ghostbuster cosplays, but
I am. But I'm telling all those other cons.
I am not. I love all Ghostbuster groups.
I'm kidding. Groups are fine. I'm saying other cons are trash. All groups are good. NYCC is the only con that matters now. All other cons are trash. That's the deal. Because we've just established that it is now the Ghostbusters con. That's what we've just decided as a panel, is that this is now the con that represents Ghostbusters most and has the deepest relationship with it, which immediately means from this podcast perspective that it's the only one that matters. See, that's it.
And on that note, if you miss us at NYCC, at the end of the month, we're going to be at Rhode Island Comic Con. We'll call it the second best con. No.
That one's not trash. I promise you. No, look, Spooky Empire is happening too, and that's also not trash. There's tons of great cons happening. Ghostbusters stuff is happening, but I think more like those are cons where celebrities are going to show up, they're going to do signings, etc. But this whole notion of like there's a marketing relationship that exists with NYCC. Like it's transitioned in a way from being it's a con where you go to see if you can meet actors from Star Trek and have them sign stuff for you, to it's a place where the industry is showing up to do bigger pitches, right? And bigger announcements, almost like a post SDCC miniature version of it. And excites me that like there's so much Ghostbusters involved in it. And I mean, we can get into this, like all the stuff that's going to happen that weekend while you're there. One, I think the big thing that, we're all very excited about is there's going to be this HasLab announcement that's potentially happening. We pretty much know that there's a panel happening there of some sort and an announcement that has come out from Hasbro. And we can get into this. What do you think we're getting?
So based on the graphic of a Ghostbuster logo in a tire with a fender, it's got to be an Ecto. It's got to be like a toy Ecto, right? That's what I'm guessing.
I mean, that's the thing I keep saying that I want more than anything else. And I've been saying it for years that I need a 1/12 scale Ecto 1. I kind of keep wondering if they're just going to fuck with us. Like if what they're going to put out instead is the Sprinter van from Frozen Empire just to mess with us. Just like,
oh my gosh.
I'm calling it right now. Shriner's car. Third scale.
You want this?
I want it so bad.
Let's do it.
I'm down for that.
That was not a thing I would have expected, but okay.
Just calling it
Fully
now.
drivable.
Yeah.
Fully drivable. Yep. Shriner's car. The only way to go. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think, I think you're right. Like, I think it's probably something that we're going to expect probably in Ecto 1, right? They've been kind of teasing this for quite a while. And if you really go back to it, like the first time they really hardcore teased to us that the next HasLab was potentially in Ecto 1 is really at the 40th. Like, we're standing around at the firehouse, and that's when they start handing out those patches that had the tire on them and had the fender on them. And so that was sort of the first indication to us that it was like, whoa, wait, you're kind of being pretty overt about what you're about to market, I mean, look, I remember collecting every Matty Collector toy and then seeing the, do you remember they had like the little like chart of, if we raise this much money, we will build an Ecto that fits all your Matty Collector toys. And then they came out with like the cardboard one, you know? And the thing is, like, as much as I am, like, as much as I'm expecting it to be an Ecto 1, I can't help to feel a little disappointed. I'm not being snooty at all. The last two HasLabs were all prop related. You had a proton pack, you had the 2 in the box. I was hoping that the next HasLab announcement would be another Ghostbuster gear that people could wear. I don't think they're making a Ecto 1 that you can drive. Unless they do the Shriner's car.
Slime blower?
Slime blower could be cool, but that's got to be super impractical.
They're never, having built a slime blower, it's never going to happen. Just tell you.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this the other day, that if they were to ever do a slime blower, like, people talk about how they did a proton pack. And I'm like, they didn't really, though, right? They did half a proton pack. They did the back part of a proton pack as a HasLab. If you wanted the wand, you went and bought the wand separate, right? So what would the business model for that be like? Do they go, we're going to sell you the nozzle? Like, you can go down to GameStop and buy just the shooter part of the slime blower as a nozzle. And then, like, we'll put out a $400 backpack that you can put it with, right? Like, the cost of production on a full slime blower has got to be significantly higher than what they would have done on a proton pack that didn't come with the wand, right? That you had to go source the wand yourself, or you could buy it from them as, a separate item. But it's not like they even bundled them together and went, buying a wand with a proton pack for the HasLab, save $50. Like, so to me, I'm like, I keep thinking that is probably like the biggest rationale for why you will never see a slime blower, right? Is that even in the previous model, they never planned to be like, hey, let's put the whole thing together as one unit. They partitioned it out into pieces where it was like you could buy the smaller part and have it as a display piece if you're a casual collector. And then if you're a deep level collector, you can have the heavy one. And I just don't know how many casual collectors need a slime blower nozzle.
But, I mean, the other props that could be, I mean, we're looking at what Frozen Empire came out with the hand cannon, right? The hand neutrino wand. That could be an interesting one, right? That's definitely cheap enough.
Drone trap. Let's go drone trap.
Drone trap could be an interesting choice.
I would be okay. Look, I've said drone trap would be really cool. Right? Like a drone trap would be cool. RTV trap would be cool. But I also think if you do those, it's a way different style of production of toy than what they typically do. Like I feel like they would have to partner with like an RC car developer in order to do it right. And I say this not to throw shade on it because I love the stupid thing and God knows I've handled enough of them, but like the RC trap that they made, the Hasbro canceled RC trap that looks like it's phallic and was thus never made into the light of day. That thing at an RC car level is awful. It doesn't even turn. Like it literally just goes straight forward or straight back. And like when you drive it forward, it goes straight into the left. And when you go back, it goes back into the right. So it can do S's, right? And if I were going to have Hasbro designing a remote control thing, I would really want them to go get like the people from like RoboSyn or something who they work with on those high-end Transformers toys and not like to just do it in-house. Because I feel like they would need to go get somebody else who's more versed in RC tech and that stuff in order to get where they're going. That being said, it's not like they couldn't do it, but I just it gives me some trepidation about like, would they be prepared to bring that to market? And then what would the cost of it be? Because it's an entirely different wheelhouse when now you need FCC approval for your RC powered thing, you know, versus, oh, we made some action figures, or, oh, we made this proton pack that we need, you know, safety inspections on because it has batteries, but they don't need to go through the FCC process. So I don't know. I'm being
there's approvals anywhere, right? When you do the Ecto, you got to get Cadillac's approval, don't you?
Well, if you license it, otherwise you take weird actions like adding extra light bulbs onto the bumper or removing the Cadillac logo from things. There are ways around that too, I guess, right? But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I think that those would be cool things, but I also wonder like how much you could make them into functional props. Like, is there a safety concern of like, well, we made a quadcopter that can fly through New York City and people may decide they're going to use at Halloween and crash into people's cars or whatever, you know? So I don't know. This is the company who decided we needed an orange ring on the front of
the orange tip on the neutron wand
for liability
reasons. Makes all the difference.
So I'm sorry. I'm being a legal killjoy. I brought my lawyer hat to ruin your dreams.
Please, this is the New York City Ghostbusters. Don't worry about it. We're A-okay with Killjoy. Actually, you know what? That reminds me. I've seen many screenings of the Ghostbusters, but I've seen maybe one. Yeah, I've seen one of Ghostbusters 2, and it was on the pier over by the Intrepid. And the biggest applause that movie got was when Mayor Lenny goes in being miserable, right? You know, the whole
being miserable and treating other people like dirt is every New Yorker's God-given right. Yes. Like this is, What do you want me to do? Tell everybody they have to be nice? That's the one that gets applause from everyone. It is. You're not wrong. Like I said, definitively, like, we all support each other. We all love this city. We'll all bind together if something horrible happens. But otherwise, we're allowed to be dicks to each other. It's just, this is what it means to be a New Yorker. Suck it up. I will say that I think that you could certainly positively charge the mood slime, though, with the energy and the excitement about the HasLab. You know, I think that it's something that for those of us who are Ghostbusters fans, I think we're all jazzed about, even if it's not going to be your desired drone trap or, you know, maybe could it be a slime blower? Maybe. But
I mean, if it was a toy, I'd like a recreation of the firehouse. That is the one toy I would love to see.
That's interesting. Now, when you say recreation of the firehouse, do you mean like the Kenner firehouse?
The Kenner firehouse, yes.
What I want them to do more than a recreation, I want them to do like what Mattel did. Mattel did Grayskull, right? They did Castle Grayskull again. Mm-hmm. But they didn't just reproduce Castle Grayskull like, hey, we took an old mold and we recast it, or an old, you know, out of box one and we recast it so we could get like mint reproduction. They said, let's recreate Castle Grayskull, have it have all the cool features it had when you were a kid, but upgrade all of them. So like now it has lights and sound. Now, as opposed to just having decals on the floor that represent certain things, there's a pit that opens up, or that robot that existed only as a cardboard thing that stood in the back of the Grayskull Castle now exists as a figure that comes with it, you know? And so like, I would love to see them do almost what I would call like Firehouse Classics. Like that was that, or Firehouse Origins. That was the Origins line that Masters of the Universe did, where they did that stuff. And so I would love to see that. Like, I want a fire pole that I don't need to spin.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Real brass.
Maglev.
Yes. Real brass.
There you go.
Real brass. That's a great idea. I want a real brass fire pole, and I want like magnets that just at a maglev level make the people go up and down the pole. Like we just, that would be awesome. Like, I don't want it to spin around. I don't want pieces to fly off of it when you know, make them go down the pole. Just give me something that would go up and down with magnets would be awesome. But what if you had to do that? Like, what other features would you put in that firehouse if you could like reboot it?
So I've always loved the idea of the dripping of the slime through the top, you know? Yeah. Right. So maybe if they enhance those, that's gotta be cheaper. That's gotta be way cheaper. And that that could be like mass market kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it would bring us back slime too, because we haven't had good like Ghostbusters slime.
I mean, slime never dies.
The only good slime is the slime that you can get at our booth at New York City Comic Con.
There we go. I was looking for a way to bring that back.
Which, by the way, this year we have new things for our slime. Take it away.
Oh, yes. So this year we're going to have for an additional donation, but you'll be able to add scent and glitter and a little prize to your slime. So instead of just making slime, you can make it a little bit more because we have to meet the high expectations of today's children.
It's true. If you like go down the aisle for slime and Play-Doh at this point, it's like there's cloud slime, there's smellable slime, there's all kinds of different like mix-ins in slime. It's so weird.
Which I don't know how other groups do their slime lab, but with our group, we have this beaker set that the kids like actually pour things into. We have a whole like station that they can like lock it into. Nice. We refined it so much to make it look as sciencey as possible. We even tell them like what a polymer is while it's all going on. You know,
and bore them a little bit.
Polymer bonds.
Yeah, you know. So
this is how you make it STEM education. That's how this works. Like, you know,
which is why our logo is an apple. It's not because it's the Big Apple.
Oh, it's because you are
teachers. Two reasons. It actually is. It actually is because of STEM education and also the Big Apple. So
that's awesome. Well, I'm certainly excited about whatever they're going to do over there at Hasbro. I'm really excited about the potentiality of a 112 Ecto-1. I've been talking about it for a really long time, and so I'm really hopeful that's what the HasLab's going to be. Ryan, you mentioned a few moments ago your Maddie collector figures, and you mentioned that Ecto that they, you know, never came to fruition. And for me, I'm not going to lie, like that's who's going to get this car. Like there's zero potentiality that the Plasma Series figures are going to ever get to ride in that Ecto-1. And then if that Ecto-1 exists, my Maddie collector figures are absolutely getting a car after all these years because they've been very patient. They had popcorn buckets to ride in. They had all kinds of other terrible things, and they've been very patient about the whole thing. And as you can tell, I'm a mentally ill person who apparently has a relationship with his Maddie collector figures. But what are you excited about with respect to this HasLab? Like each of you, what do you think if it's an Ecto, for instance, like, is that going to be something you're excited about, jazzed about, or do you think you're going to pass on it?
So I'm actually hoping for the helicopter. What was that? The Ecto 2? Yeah, I'm going to go with that instead. So if that comes out, when that comes out, I'll probably, I mean, I'm a sucker for everything. I'll go in there, I'll go into Comic-Con, I'll look at it, I'll be like, I'm not going to get that. I have so much stuff. I'm not, and then I'll buy it. I'll buy two. Yeah, I mean, I have no self-control at all. So I'll probably get it. It's going to be awesome because HasLab, I mean, has, you know, done some great stuff in the past. You know, that Proton Pack. I mean, I have, you know, one of my own Proton Packs that I've had for years and years from a custom build, but I still have one of the HasLabs, and it's fantastic. It's so much lighter. Oh my god, it's so much easier to walk around with at a convention, and it looks great. And you know, it has a bunch of features, so I'm sure that if they do an Ecto, it's going to be, you know, probably in the same vein. It's going to have a bunch of, you know, nice little features, nice little touches, maybe a little like, you know, a couple Easter eggs in there for the, you know, the real fans, the true fans, whatever. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I'll probably end up getting it.
My hope is an Ecto 1A if they're going to do one. I won't be able to buy one because I'm lucky enough that my wife let me hang up my Proton Pack on the wall in our bedroom. So I live in a New York apartment, and New York apartments are small. So I don't know if I have room for even a 112 Ecto, but.
And that's fair. I mean, I'll say this, like, I think about this a lot, that collecting Ghostbusters stuff requires a lot of space. And I didn't have a Proton Pack for years because I never had the place to build it. And once I got a house, I could at least like go out in a garage with a Spirit Pack and use the IKEA tools I had to try and do stuff. And that was like my entry point to things. But like, you're not wrong, right? Like it's going to be a big item. And so it may not exist for everybody. What I'm interested to see is, like, you said Ecto 1A, and I'm interested to see like if they will give us some ability to be modular about this. Like, it would be really nice.
I feel like they would have to.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Playmobil did it. Like, the Playmobil Ecto 1 is like, and the Ecto 1A, they're two different items, but they're really just like different roof racks. Well, you can pick up one and put it on the other one, you know?
And they did that with the HasLab pack too. They were like, hey, this is the Afterlife pack, but you can also just take all this stuff off and make it an 884. Like, so I totally would see them doing that.
Yeah, I would be totally jazzed for it. I mean, having it to be the ability to move between the cars would be a really cool idea. So hopefully that'll be a thing.
With a helicopter.
I'll tell you this. If it isn't Ecto 1, I feel like that would be an easier pass for me, which is good for my wallet. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it's good for my wallet because money is tight, man. Let me tell you. but either way, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm happy for those that are super jazzed at it being an Ecto 1.
Okay. And if it's not Ecto 1, you're going to be even happier, or will you be less happy because then you'll have to spend money?
It'll be even worse because I'll be spending the money on that. You know? So, yeah. Because, HasLab, they always have that timer and it's like fake Kickstarter. I'm like, come on, guys.
Look, I'm kind of jealous because you're going to be at NYCC and you're going to have like the firsthand knowledge of this before any of the rest of us do. So that means obviously that you need to make sure that you blast it out to social media as quickly as possible and tag every single person you possibly can the second that is seen on stage.
We're going to
be the first ones. Yeah, be a scooper. Get your first post, get all the likes for it, and get everybody to give you clout. If that's still a thing. Do we even measure social media in a thing called clout anymore? I don't know. But that was a score on Twitter you could have once. Remember Twitter? Remember that before we called it something else? I don't know what we're doing anymore.
Let's forget that, please.
Never heard of it.
But I'm really excited that, we're going to potentially be looking at an Ecto 1. And if nothing else, we're probably going to get something very cool from Hasbro. And I'm stoked that you all are going to be out at NYCC representing Ghostbusters, and even in a charity capacity, even if you're not going to be showing off the Ecto 1 at your booth, although you should be. I'm just going to say it. Like Hasbro, if you're listening.
It would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice. But either way, we love going to New York Comic Con. We love seeing other Ghostbuster fans. We've recruited many cosplayers through our appearances at New York Comic Con, and we hope to continue doing so. Continue to inspire others to join our causes and to give us their membership dues of $30 annually. That would be great.
Oh, that's all the big money you're making? That's
yeah. So 30 annually is membership dues.
It pays for the Christmas party. Mostly.
Oh man, that's true.
I hope it lives in a box called The Last of the Petty Cash.
Oh man. Well, we use it only on things that are important for our group that are needed, So like signs and all that stuff.
Well, I just, before we wrap up, any final thoughts you have or anything else you want to share with folks of places that people should go check out, things to go look at on social media, etc.?
Just want to say thanks for having us on, Jim, for starters. Really appreciate it. Definitely check out our social medias. We have a ton of stuff going on in New York over the month of October. We have truck or treats, that kind of thing. Of course, New York Comic Con, the 17th to the 20th of October. So if you're there, definitely come by and see us up in the River Pavilion. And if you miss us there, we'll be at the Rhode Island Comic Con November 1st to the 3rd with the Massachusetts Ghostbusters. We'll be doing our slime lab and showing off their cool exhibits that they got going on.
They're recreating the firehouse.
Oh yeah, they're doing some big stuff. So,
ooh, that's exciting. Now I want to go to Rhode Island too.
Yeah. Anything else, guys?
Like you said, thank you very much for having us. This was awesome. We're just looking forward to Comic-Con. It's always one of our biggest events of the year. So, like we said, everything that we take in goes directly to charity. So, if you see us posting about that Ecto raffle, feel free to donate towards it. Feel free. It's all going to go to a good place. And who knows, maybe you're going to get an awesome tour out of it from an awesome tour guide.
Aww.
Well, and then you probably also get some awesome pizza too, because that's kind of what he's good at as well. So
there's nothing but awesome pizza in New York.
That's not entirely true. Let's just be careful. Right? There is a famous Famiglia like 2 blocks from Times Square that when I saw it last time I was there, I got insulted and yelled at it. I was like, why are you even here? You're supposed to be in an airport in the middle of Ohio. Yeah. You're not allowed to be here. You're like Sparrow. This is bad. Sorry. I didn't mean to deviate away from that into a pizza rant.
No, it's okay. It's fine. My final thought for sure is Jim, thank you again for having us on. I love being on this podcast, talking about anything Ghostbusters related. most importantly, I'm grateful and thankful for the amazing group that we have as the New York City Ghostbusters. New York City Ghostbusters would be nothing without its members. And I know that because I delegate as much responsibility as much as possible to the other members, and they pick it up. And here we are 12 years later. So thank you so much.
Oh, I have to plug one more thing. We're going to be at Magnify Brewing in West Caldwell, New Jersey. On the
Fairfield.
It's in Fairfield, New Jersey. Sorry, on the 27th of October, and they are bringing back their Ecto Cooler. It is so good, and I've had a lot of different Ecto Cooler beers, but it might be the best. I don't know, but you're only one way to know, and you have to come out and see us. And
Magnify Brewing.
Magnify Brewing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we were there last year. They loved us so much, and we loved them so much that we're doing it again. Absolutely, this year we make slime for the kids.
Load up on beer.
And we load up on beer. It's really good. The Ecto will be there. Slimer will be there. Drink responsibly. It's
Magnify time.
Yeah, it's Magnify time. And we'll have likely merch as well too from New York Comic Con there, like the youth t-shirts and stuff like that.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that you all are out doing this great work, and that, it's all going to a great cause. You talked about this earlier on, that it's going towards Trinity Shelter, the stuff you're going to be doing with the Ghost, with the stuff you're going to be doing with toy drives later on this year will be benefiting, the folks in the Bronx. And so I think that everything you do is so wonderful. And I want to encourage folks, if you're in the tri-state area, hit, the NYC Ghostbusters up, go get yourself a tour, go get an awesome walking tour from Ryan or one of the other folks in the group. Go out and see them at NYCC. If you live in Jersey, go get some beer that tastes like Ecto Cooler and hang out with some Ghostbusters. I wish I could do all of this and see you all, but I've been very lucky to be able to talk to the three of you today. So thank you for coming on and joining us in Extraplasm and chatting with us and letting us know what's going on. And I hope that your spooky season goes really well. You have so much planned, and I hope it all goes great. So thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you again soon. That about wraps things up for Extraplasm this week. I want to say one final thank you to our guests from the New York City Ghostbusters, Ryan, Nick, and Topher. They were fantastic guests, and I hope that if you're in the tri-state area, you'll check out what they have going on at New York Comic Con, and if you're not, that you'll take a look at what's going on with the raffle information once they put it out, available to folks to help support community organizations in their area, while also, sort of celebrating what's going on at New York Comic Con. And I also want to say thank you, as usual, to Brendan Pearce at Badoochi Studios, who provides our logo, as well as vaporwave artist MAGNAVOX, who provides our theme music via their version of Ghostbusters. And I need to say thank you to you for listening, for tuning in every week, for being involved and letting me know about what's going on with your franchises, etc. It's been great to hear about some of the cool Halloween events people have been involved in the last few weeks, and I'm hoping there's more. If you have something you want to share with the podcast, by all means, reach out to extraplasmpodcast@gmail.com, Extraplasm on X or Instagram, or Extraplasm Podcast on YouTube or Facebook. And again, thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of an amazing community. Be well. Have a great rest of your week ahead. You might not hear from Extraplasm again next week, and it may be a couple weeks before the next episode happens. But nevertheless, if you've got something to share with the podcast, don't be a stranger. I'm still here, still out there. I just may be a little indisposed next week when there's supposed to be another episode. So keep your eyes peeled for the next one. And until then, as Ernie Hudson reminds us every single episode,
try to have fun and always keep on busting. Take care.